Well, hello. So, I just got the Supreme Motion, as we all did, and I thought, I would read it or as much of it as I can get through, because I want to. So, there you go. So let me see if I can pull it up. Hold on just a moment. Oh, actually, let me make sure my settings are correct. Oh, there we go. All right, looks like we're good. Perfect. Okay. Hi, Badger. How are you? All right. Let me see what's going on. What's going on? Wait. Where did I put it though? Is it this? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. All right. Make it nice and big. All right. I'll just give people a couple minutes to come in. Um, Please share. Let me actually share it right now too. And then I'll do that. Hold on just a moment. As usual, let me know if there are any issues with the sound. Where am I? Where am I? There I am. Okay, hold on. Whoops. Whoopsie. Ooh, I am feeling better. It still sounds bad, and I think as I'm learning about this cold, the first, few days are really, really bad, and then, the rest of the days aren't as bad, although I felt really bad yesterday and a little bit yeah, and I think I just wore myself out Saturday night, and then, today I'm still, like, really super, coughing and everything. Hey, gal, I'm gonna read as much as I can get through because I just was excited to read it. And I thought, I'm not gonna read it twice. I'm gonna read it once. I just wanna read it once. Um, okay. Let's see here. Let's see here. So this, as I understand it, is the motion filed to the Supreme Court by Jack Smith, which I was just reading something about I was just reading something about I think it was Andrew Weissman, and he was saying what a bold move this was. And so I thought, well, that seems interesting. Then I think it'd be interesting to read that and see what is so bold about this. Expedited decision on the presidential immunity claim Trump has advanced in the federal 2020 election case against him. So, hey, Kathy, how are you? Good, 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 good. All right. So, actually, I will just wait just a second and let people come in so that we're not, totally. I know I kinda just came, like, out of the gate. But I hope everyone's having a good day. Please let me know if there's any sound issues. I'm trying to, uh, use the microphone, but then not abuse it. Anyway, it's a Monday that feels like a Monday. It's a Monday that feels like a Monday. Yeah, it's a Monday that feels like a Monday. Sure does. Surely does. So let's see what else is happening this week. I know that well, Rudy. Oof, 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 oof. Rudy stumbled into court this morning. So that was interesting. I just watched the replay of it and it wasn't very interesting. But his assistant, Ted, is so curious to me. I just find him a very curious person. It's kind of interesting. So yeah, I was watching that this morning, and then let's see, what else was I doing? Oh God, I just I watched some of Russell Brand, which was dumb, which was just dumb. And then just, made the rounds of the usual, like Glenn Beck has a morning hour and stuff like that. So it's just bleh. But this is interesting, and I'm curious to see if we can glean anything in my rather limited reading capacities. But we'll give it a shot. Alrighty. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. It's very interesting. Very interesting. Okay, let me do this. Oh, hello. Gustafferson. All right. There we go. All right. Let's see here. I think the first whoa. Okay, there's no need to be weird. Oh, hold on. I think oh no, it's charging. Um, let's see. I think this is just okay. The special counsel respectfully petitions on behalf of the United States, respectfully petitions for a writ of certiorari before judgment to the United States Court of Appeals for the district, blah, 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 blah. Okay, I had a feeling that was nothing. All right. The judgment of the district court was entered on December 1st, 2023. Respondent filed a notice of appeal on December 7th. The Court of Appeals jurisdiction rests on this code. Jurisdiction of this court is invoked over that code. See this thing and that thing and this thing. Relevant constitutional provisions are at the end. Yeah. Let's see here. Wait, I turned that down. Okay. Here we go. Statement. This case presents a fundamental question at the heart of our democracy. Let me just move that one thing there. Whether a former president is absolutely immune from federal prosecution for crimes committed while in office, or is constitutionally protected from federal prosecution when he has been impeached but not convicted before the criminal proceedings begin. The district court rejected respondents' claims, correctly recognizing that former presidents are not above the law and are accountable for their violations of federal criminal law while in office. See this. Respondent's appeal of the ruling rejecting his immunity and related claims, however, suspends the trial of the charges against him, scheduled to begin on March 4th, 2024. It is of imperative public importance that respondent's claims of immunity be resolved by this court and that respondent's trial proceed as promptly as possible if his claim of immunity is rejected. Respondent's claims are profoundly mistaken, as the district court held, but only this court can definitively resolve them. The court should grant a writ of certiorari before judgment to ensure that it can provide the expeditious resolution that this case warrants, just as it did in United States v. Nixon. Respondent served as the President of the United States from January 17th to January 2021. The indictment alleges that respondent engaged in systematic and deliberate efforts to overturn the oh my gosh, I just totally lost my place. Overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election and prevent the lawful transfer of power to his successor. On August 1st, 2023, a federal grand jury sitting in the District of Columbia charged the respondent in a 4-count indictment, which charges conspiracy to defraud the United States in violation of this, alleges that respondent, then a candidate seeking re-election to the presidency, conspired with, among others, several individuals outside the executive branch to, quote, overturn the legitimate results of the 2020 presidential election by using knowingly false claims of election fraud to obstruct the federal government function by which those results are collected, counted, and certified, close quote. The indictment further alleges that respondent aimed at accomplishing conspiracy's objectives in 4 ways: using deceit towards state officials to subvert the legitimate election results in those states, using deceit to organize fraudulent slates of electors in 7 targeted states and cause them to send false certificates to Congress, leveraging the Department of Justice to use deceit to have state officials replace the legitimate electoral slate with electors who would cast their votes for respondent, attempting to enlist the vice president to fraudulently alter the election results and during the certification proceeding on January 6, 2021, and directing supporters to the Capitol to obstruct proceeding. and exploiting the violence and chaos that transpired at the United States Capitol on January 6. Counts 2 and 3, which incorporate allegations from count 1, charge conspiracy and substantive violations of this code for corruptly obstructing the certification of the presidential election results on January 6. Count 4, which likewise incorporates the allegations from count 1, alleges that respondent conspired to violate one or more persons' constitutional right to vote and have one's vote counted in violation of this code. My computer is baby. The district court scheduled the trial to begin on March 4th, 2024, with prospective jurors set to complete questionnaires on February 9th, 2024. Central to its selection of a March 4th trial date was the district court's recognition that of the public's right to a prompt and efficient resolution of the matter. Hi, Adriana. Hi, Kathy. You don't think so? I don't know. It's kind of scary. I mean, it feels like a little bit of their Hail Mary, so interesting. Here we go. Here's one of my favorite phrases. Respondent moved to dismiss the indictment on the grounds, inter alia, that he enjoys absolute immunity from criminal prosecution for acts taken within the outer perimeter of his official responsibilities, and that the indictment's allegations all fall within that scope. He also argued that double jeopardy principles and the impeachment judgment clause from this constitutional article, blah, 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 the government responded that a former I'll be fine. Oh, are you talking to someone else? I'm getting over it. The president has no such absolute immunity from federal criminal prosecution, that even if such immunity existed, it would be narrower than the outer perimeter standard that defines a president's immunity from civil liability, that even if standard applied, the indictment should not be dismissed because it alleges conduct falling outside the outer perimeter of a president's official responsibilities, and that respondent's double jeopardy argument lacks merit. The district court denied respondent's presidential immunity claim and his related double jeopardy claim. The court concluded that the Constitution's text, structure, and history support the conclusion that respondent may be subject to federal investigation, indictment, prosecution, conviction, and punishment for any criminal acts undertaken while in office. Although the Constitution's text does not address presidential immunity, the court observed that silence did not, quote, reflect an understanding, close quote, that a former president possesses immunity from federal criminal prosecution for acts taken while in office. To the contrary, the court explained, the one constitutional provision that respondent invoked, the impeachment judgment clause, Article 1. Oh, wait, let's just read this. The district court also denied respondent's motion to dismiss, raising several other. Okay, so that's a bunch of quotes. Okay. Citations, rather. Sorry. Cut against his immunity argument. The impeachment judgment clause provides judgment in it's quoted. Oh, okay. Yeah, I will. I'll feel better soon. I've been trying to get as much sleep as I can. Sometimes it's hard. Judgment in cases of impeachment shall not extend further than to removal from office and disqualification to hold and enjoy any office of honor, trust, or profit under the United States, but the party convicted shall nevertheless be liable and subject to indictment, trial, judgment, and punishment according to law. Constitutional Article 1. The court noted that the clause's first part, quote, limits the penalties of impeachment to removal and disqualification from office, close quote, and the second part clarifies that the party convicted may face, quote, later criminal prosecution, but that any, quote, further punishment may not come from the legislature. The district court reasoned that several features of the impeachment judgment clause undercut respondents' assertion that it confers any immunity from criminal prosecution. First, the term nevertheless clarified that clause's first part addressing the penalties that the legislature could impose following impeachment, quote, does not bear on whether the party would also be subject to criminal prosecution. Second, materials written contemporaneously with the Constitution, such as those from Alexander Hamilton and James Wilson, did not reflect the view, let alone a widespread consensus, as respondent contended, that the impeachment judgment clause renders former presidents immune unless they were impeached and convicted. Third, respondents' interpretation of the impeachment judgment clause relied on a negative implication that a president who is not convicted in an impeachment proceeding cannot face criminal prosecution. That reflected neither logic nor common sense. Finally, respondents' interpretation would produce the untenable anomaly that a former president would be immune if he committed a crime that was not treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors from Constitution Article 2, for which impeachment is not available, committed the crime near the end of his presidency, or covered up the crime during the time of his presidency. Turning from text to structure, the district court reasoned that the public interest in a former president's criminal prosecution outweighs the theoretical asserted burdens such a prosecution entails. Concerns about chilling presidential conduct were minimal, the court noted, because whether to intentionally commit a federal crime should not be among the difficult decisions a president faces. In addition, the court stated the possibility of a vexatious post-presidency litigation was much reduced in the criminal context, given robust procedural safeguards attendant to federal criminal prosecutions that protect former presidents from harassment. By contrast, the public interest in fair and accurate judicial proceedings is at its height in the criminal setting. Holding a former president criminally accountable, the district court observed, is essential to fulfilling our constitutional promise of equal justice under the law and furthers the public interest in an ongoing criminal prosecution. Boop, boop, boop. That was from Nixon v. Fitzgerald. Welcome, everyone. The district court also found nothing in history to justify the absolute immunity that respondents sought. The court discerned no evidence that the founders understood the Constitution to bestow such immunity, and the executive branch had expressly and repeatedly concluded that a former president was subject to criminal prosecution. President Ford's pardon of former President Nixon aimed to prevent the latter's potential criminal prosecution, demonstrating that respondents' view of presidential immunity from criminal liability stands at odds with that of his predecessors in the Oval Office. In addition, the district court noted that Fitzgerald had analogized a former president's immunity from civil liability to the similar protections provided to the judges and prosecutors. But the court explained that notwithstanding their absolute civil immunity, I'm sorry, I'm not doing all the quotations. Forgive me. So sorry. Bad logic is called. Let's see here. Let me just take a drink a little bit. Boop, boop, boop. Okay. Alrighty. In addition, analogized. A former president's immunity from civil okay, wait. Where'd I go? Beep, beep, beep. Beep, beep. In sum, the district court concluded that former presidents do not possess absolute federal criminal immunity for any acts committed while in office. The court similarly rejected respondents' claim that his acquittal in impeachment proceedings afforded protection under double jeopardy principles or the impeachment judgment clause against his criminal prosecution after leaving office. Reasons for granting the petition. A cornerstone of our constitutional order is that no person is above the law. The force of that principle is at its zenith where, as here, a grand jury has accused a former president of committing federal crimes to subvert the peaceful transfer of power to his lawfully elected successor. Nothing could be more vital to our democracy than a president who abuses the electoral system. This is what sticks in my craw. It's really just abusing that transition of power. Like, I mean, a lot of it sticks in my craw. Mostly like the human rights abuses. I'm sorry, I don't mean to, but this is like one piece that I think is like really important. Anyway, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what I think. Yet respondent asserted that the Constitution accords him absolute immunity from prosecution. The Constitution's text, structure, and history lend no support to that novel claim. This court has accorded civil immunity for a president's actions within the outer perimeter of his official responsibilities, see Nixon, and the executive branch has long held the view that a sitting president cannot be indicted while in office. But those principles cannot be extended to provide the absolute shield from criminal liability that respondent, a former president, asserts. Neither the separation of powers nor respondent's acquittal in impeachment proceedings lifts him above the reach of federal criminal law. Like other citizens, he is accountable for criminal conduct. Yeah, don't you remember what Mitch McConnell said? He said, You can try him after this is all done. So even Mitch said it. Where's his quote? Okay. The district court presiding over this case rejected respondents' constitutional arguments and has scheduled trial for March 4th, 2024. Respondents' notice of appeal, however, suspends trial proceedings. See Griggs. And respondent has moved for a stay of all proceedings in the district court while his appeal is pending. It is of paramount public importance that the respondent's claims of immunity be resolved as expeditiously as possible, and if respondent is not immune, that he receive a fair and speedy trial on these charges, which is so true. The public, respondent, and the government are entitled to nothing less. Yet, if this case proceeds through the ordinary and even a highly expedited appellate process, it is unclear whether whether this court would be able to hear and resolve the threshold immunity issues during its current term. For that reason, the government seeks a writ of certiorari before judgment to afford this court an opportunity to grant review now and ensure that it can timely resolve the important immunity question presented here. The United States recognizes that this is an extraordinary request. This is an extraordinary case. The court should grant certiorari and set a briefing schedule that would permit this case to be argued and resolved as promptly as possible. He wants to go to court now. Right now. Oh my goodness. Wow. This case warrants the court's immediate review. Let's just see if there's other than the citations. An application for review case is appropriate when, quote, a writ of certiorari before judgment is appropriate when the case is of such imperative public importance as to justify deviation from normal appellate practice. Okay. This case involves a paradigmatic issue of imperative public importance. The amenability to criminal prosecution of a former president of the United States for conduct undertaken during his presidency. It requires no extended discussion to confirm that this case, involving charges that respondents sought to thwart the peaceful transfer of power through violations of federal criminal law, is at the apex of public importance. The charges implicate a central tenet of our democracy, and the charges allege that respondent conspired to transgress the law in manifold ways by intentionally using fraudulent means to obstruct the presidential electoral process, by obstructing constitutionally prescribed processes in Congress for counting electoral votes, and by seeking to deprive millions of voters of their electoral choice for president. The district court set this case for trial on March 4th to ensure fulfillment of the public's interest in seeing this case resolved in a timely manner. The public interest in a broad sense, as well as the constitutional guarantee. Okay, so that's that. Vindicating that public interest. If appellate review were to proceed through the ordinary process of the Court of Appeals. Hey, Oomph, how are you? Let's see, where was I? If the what? If appellate review of the decision were to proceed through the ordinary process in the Court of Appeals, the pace of review may not result in a final decision for many months. Even if the decision arrives sooner, the timing of such decision might prevent this court from hearing and deciding the case this term. Precedent supports expeditious action. When the government sought certiorari, I'm probably not saying that right, before judgment in United States v. Nixon, a case presenting similarly consequential issues of presidential privilege, the court granted the petition and resolved the constitutional question expeditiously so that trial could begin as scheduled. There, the district court, overseeing one of the Watergate cases, had scheduled trial to begin on September 9th, 1974. On May 24th, 1974, the special prosecutor sought certiorari before judgment following the district court's denial of former President Nixon's motion to quash a subpoena seeking Oval Office recordings. Hi, Jay Rance. How are you? Hi, Basket Package. How are you? The court granted certiorari a week later. If I'm saying that wrong, I really apologize. And set the case for argument on July 8th, 1974. You had a fish stick stuck in your what? Never mind. Okay, let's see here. The decision issued 16 days later and trial began. Okay. Oh, sorry. Okay, I'm getting myself unfocused. To seeking Oval Office recordings. The court granted certiorari a week later and set the case for argument on July 8th, 1974. The decision issued 16 days later and trial began in the fall of 1974, so it is possible. Hi, Max. How are you? Yeah, fish stick stuck in your craw. Um, let's see here. This case warrants similar action. As in Nixon, the public importance of these issues presented and the need for their prompt resolution. As in Nixon, the public importance of the issues presented and the need for their prompt resolution merit this court's intervention now, without awaiting completion of appellate proceedings. Disclaimer: I am not doing all the quotations, and I really apologize, but you don't come for the precision, do you? And as in Nixon, that is true, even though the district court correctly denied respondents presidential immunity and related double jeopardy claims. While no precedent supports respondents' claim as a former president to criminal immunity, the government acknowledges that this court has not addressed a comparable claim. And this is a quintessential example of an important question, federal law, blah, damn it, question of federal law that has not been, but should be, settled by this court. That was an end of a quote or something. In recent years, this court has often granted certiorari before judgment in cases of imperative public importance that warranted immediate determination. See this thing. Oh my God, my brain. All of those quotes. Oh my God. It should follow the same course here. Dang it. This court should order expedited briefing so that it can consider and decide the case promptly. Oh, the government is filing this petition for a writ of certiorari before judgment, not only because of the public significance of the issues, but to ensure that the case may be briefed, argued, decided during the ordinary decisional time for cases argued this term. Well, he's just thought of everything. Hold on, I just need to fix my. Got a little bit of a power issue. My power's having a power struggle. Stop struggling. You can do it. Okay. Here we go. As noted above, the district court has scheduled trial. Yeah, we know, Jack, okay? You don't have to remind us. March 4th, 2024. Not the Ides of March. The respondent has appealed. Given the uncertain timing of appellate proceedings in the ordinary course, including potential requests for rehearing en banc, certiorari before judgment is appropriate now to allow the court to provide the prompt and definitive resolution that the issues presented here require. Because of the discretionary nature of this court's consideration of this petition, and to avoid any potential delays, the government is concurrently filing a motion to expedite proceedings in the D.C. Circuit, which currently has jurisdiction over the appeal. As that motion explains, the government is seeking prompt resolution of the appeal in time to allow this court to hear and decide the case this term, in the event the court opts not to grant the petition for a writ of certiorari before judgment. If the court grants review, the government respectfully requests that it establish a schedule for briefing. If it opts not to grant review immediately, the government respectfully suggests that it consider postponing action on the petition pending further proceedings in the Court of Appeals, so the court could grant certiorari immediately upon the issuance of a decision by that court. Oh. And if the court elects not to review this case at this time, it may wish to note that the Court of Appeals should proceed with sufficient dispatch to permit the court to hear this case promptly, and prominently. All right, let me just see if there's anything else. I think it's just all the. Wait, what is this? This is the district court opinion. Let's see if there's anything interesting in here. Cert. Okay, I'm doing certiorari. Okay. Yeah. All right. It's not the easiest word. Okay, let's just go through this. This is the district court's opinion that Jack Smith is referencing, that Bitch Kitten is appealing, and so Jack has to fight the good fight. So let's take a look and see. The United States is charged for president with 4 counts. We already went through them. Okay. Oops. What's this say? Oh, by the way, if you Empty Wheel has some really good stuff on the Hunter Biden tax case. So if you have not, if you follow the links inside and go to her actual like blog or whatever it is, I don't know what it is, webpage. She has some really good information on that. Helps really explain kind of where some of the inner workings of that are not as clear cut on the surface. So I appreciated that reporting from her. Defendant has also moved to dismiss based on statutory grounds and for selective and vindictive prosecution. The court will address these motions separately. The Supreme Court has repeatedly stressed the importance of resolving immunity questions at the earliest possible stage. Okay, they're just reminding them it's important to do this. Okay, let's see. Background and motion to dismiss. The court assumes, okay, whatever. Assumes the truth of the indictment. The court assumes the truth of the indictment's allegations. Defendant contends that the charges in the indictment are based on his public. I don't think it's a Substack, Siegfried. I think it's like it looks like a web page to me. I don't know. I think it is just her web page. I think she's like a blog. I don't know. I don't know. It's okay. It's good. It's easy to get to. Let's put it that way. It's not as hard as a Substack to get into. Nobody has to email you a fucking link for you to pull it up. Okay? So like that alone is worth the price of admission. At the motion to dismiss, the court is saying, okay, wait, sorry. So the defendant contends that the charges in the indictment are based on his public statements and tweets about the federal elections. So First Amendment, with the and his communications with the U.S. Department of Justice about investigating and possibly appointing a new acting attorney general. Boy, he's sure mad about that dang Jeffrey Clark, boxer boy. I'll tell you right now. Is Jeffrey Clark? Didn't he flip? I'm not. My head's not 100% clear. But did Jeffrey Clark flip yet, or can he not flip? Wait, maybe he can't flip. Okay. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Public communications with the U.S. Department. These are all quotes from Trump's contentions. I don't know. His response to the indictments. Communications with the U.S. Department of Justice about, okay, that. Communications with state officials about the federal election and the exercise of their official duties with respect to the election. I will never forget the visit to the White House by the Michigan delegation, the Michigan, whatever. And they had that really weird, like, Oval Office meeting. And it was, it was like, is everything okay with that? I think it is. They had that weird Oval Office meeting. Do you remember that? I remember that. Anyway. Oh. I mean, they did do this all in public. So, at least there's some of it. Communication with state officials, all right. Communications with the vice president and members of Congress about the exercise of their official duties in the election certification process. Oh, I do. I remember that. And then he tried to do it with like Pennsylvania or something. There was a few like talked about visits or meetings with state election officials. But I just remember these, gaunt white bread people walking out of the Oval Office like they'd been held hostage for like 6 hours. But I don't know. I'll find the story on that and share it because it was mind-boggling at the time. And here we are. Let's see. Communications with that. And organizing slates of electors as part of the attempt to convince legislators not to certify the election against the defendant. Immunity motion, Those generalized descriptions failed to properly portray the conduct with which he has been charged. Accordingly, the court will briefly review the central. Okay, well, we're not going to need to do that because we did kind of actually go over those. But let's see if there's any juicy stuff in here. Wait. Oh, no. Yeah, he disseminated false claims, blah, blah, blah. You know who else did? Doug Frank. You know who else is? Doug Frank. And Joe Altman. And Seth Keshel. And David Clemens. Okay. Defendant was notified repeatedly that his claims were untrue, often by the people on whom he relied. Those people included the vice president, senior leaders of the Justice Department, the director of national intelligence, the Department of Homeland Security, Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, senior White House attorneys, senior staffers on the defendant's 2020 reelection campaign, state legislators and officials, state and federal judges, and about 85 million voters. Let's see. Defendant also pursued unlawful means of discounting legitimate votes. Okay, so that's that, where he's trying to like disenfranchise votes. The Constitution prevented okay through state laws, each of the 50 states. So Electoral Count Act description there. Okay, this is just going over the ECA, or just a description of how the ECA is working. Defendant, along with at least 6 co-conspirators, undertook efforts to impair, obstruct, and defeat. They took 5 alleged forms. As of November, Clark has not flipped. I have a feeling, and a partridge in a pear tree. I have a feeling he can't. I don't really know, but I, I I think he was a bad boy. Sorry, I had to take a drink. Water. Okay. First, they used knowingly false claims of election fraud to get state legislators and election officials to subvert the legitimate election results and change electoral votes for the defendant's opponent. The defendant's opponent, Mr. Biden, to votes for the defendant. That is, on the pretext of baseless fraud claims, the defendant pushed officials in certain states to ignore the popular vote, disenfranchise millions of voters, dismiss legitimate electors, and ultimately cause the ascertainment of and voting by illegitimate electors in favor of the defendant. People, you broke the rules. Second, they organized fraudulent slates of electors in 7 states: Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, New Mexico, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, attempting to mimic the procedures that the legitimate electors were supposed to follow under the Constitution. You remember that too? And other federal state laws. This included causing the fraudulent electors to meet on the day appointed by federal law in which legitimate electors were to gather and cast their votes, cast fraudulent votes for the defendant, and sign certificates falsely representing that they were legitimate electors. Then they caused these fraudulent electors to transmit their false certificates to the vice president and other government officials to be counted at the certification proceeding on January 6. Third, they attempted to use the power and authority of the Justice Department to conduct sham election crime investigations and to send a letter to the targeted states that falsely claimed that the Justice Department had identified significant concerns that may have impacted the election outcome. That sought to advance the defendant's fraudulent elector plan by using the Justice Department's authority to falsely present the fraudulent electors as a valid alternative to the legitimate electors, and that urged, on behalf of the Justice Department, the targeted states' legislatures to convene to create the opportunity to choose the fraudulent electors over the legitimate electors. Oh, well, Number 4, using knowingly false claims of fraud, they attempted to convince the vice president to use the defendant's fraudulent electors, reject legitimate electoral votes. Did they actually discuss the electors with him? I missed that part. Or send legitimate electoral votes to state legislatures for review rather than counting them. When that failed on the morning of January 6th, they repeated knowingly false claims of election fraud to gathered supporters, falsely told them that the vice president had the authority to and might alter the election results, and directed them to the Capitol to obstruct the certification and proceeding and exert pressure on the vice president to take the fraudulent actions he had previously refused. Fifth, on the afternoon of January 6, once a large and angry crowd, including many individuals whom the defendant had deceived into believing the vice president could and might change the election results, violently attacked the Capitol and halted the proceeding. They exploited this disruption by redoubling efforts to levy false claims of election fraud and convince members of Congress to further delay the certification based on those claims. Based on this conduct, we charge them with a bunch of stuff. Conspiracy to defraud the United States, conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding, obstruction of and attempt to obstruct an official proceeding, and conspiracy against rights. Not good. Okay, so these are legal standards. That's for the nerds. That's for the real nerds. We're like I'm a light law nerd, okay? I have boundaries. I have barriers. Not boundaries, barriers. Okay, executive immunity dependent contends that the Constitution grants him absolute immunity from criminal prosecution for actions performed within the outer perimeter of his official responsibility. That was in quotes. While he served as president of the United States, so long as he was not both impeached and convicted for those actions. That's his motion? Are you kidding? That's his motion? I'm a very light law nerd. Well, I think, yeah, I mean, I think it I'm definitely a law nerd. I'm nerdy about a few things, but definitely law. Um, huh. I cannot believe. I mean, does that sound it sounds to me like it's not even that particular argument isn't that, "Oh, I did things that are wrong." I'm not saying I didn't do wrong things. You know what I mean? I'm just saying, why are they wrong? Why are they wrong? Does that make sense? I mean, I'm obviously there's more to it than that. But anyway. But that's the immunity motion, okay? While he served as president, so long as he was okay. The Constitution's text, structure, and history do not support that contention. No court or any other branch of government has ever accepted it, and this court will not so hold. Whatever immunities a sitting president may enjoy, the United States has only one chief executive at a time, and that position does not confer it a lifelong, quote, get out of jail free pass, bitch. That's a desperate argument from Trump. I know, right? It just feels very desperate. Kathy, I agree with you. Hi, don't go. Oh my gosh. You're not a nerd. You're the real deal. Don't go. You're like a real live legal eagle. Former presidents enjoy no special conditions on their federal criminal liability. Defendant may be subject to federal investigation, indictment, prosecution, conviction, and punishment for any criminal acts undertaken while in office. It's true. Look it up. Recovering. Yeah, you're recovering. Okay, so this is like really for the law nerds. It's the constitutional text, which I again would be fascinating if I would do it justice, but I shan't. Um The Constitution nor is the Constitution silent on the question. I was just listening to Plato's Republic just because I just want to listen to things at night before I go to sleep and just like have something kind of sound in the background. Um, and I thought, well, at least I'll listen to something I haven't really either read in a long time or read at all. And I just can't even remember. I think I probably read Plato's Republic in college. I'm sure I did. But I just, started listening, and it was, like the first part of it is, like, I'm just, like, not prepared for it, so it's a bunch of seeming non sequiturs. Isn't that funny? That's Latin. And sorry, I'm sorry. I'm just kidding. And, it just felt like, and then Socrates did this, and then they did that, and then they started talking about the just man, and I'm like, "Just man? What are they saying?" Yeah, anyway. I was also sick. So I'm gonna use that as an excuse, not just my lack of focus. Okay, founding era prison criminal immunity. Okay, this is all the citations on the presidential immunity judgment in cases of impeachment. US and oh, come on. Come on. Don't do that. Second part of the clause, both parts and the interpretation, defining clause's scope. Okay, so this is the judge's case of impeachment. He's arguing that he was only impeached and not um, convicted by the Senate. So he's claiming that makes him immune for those crimes. Let's see. In addition, lacking textual literacy, the defendant collapses under the common sense. Oh, common sense? Oh, okay. Well, we don't need a citation for that. Defendant's reading of the impeachment judgment clause also proves too much. If the clause required impeachment and conviction to precede criminal prosecution, then that requirement would apply not only to the president, but also to the vice president and all civil officers of the United States, who may likewise be impeached. The constitutional, for instance, then Vice President Aaron Burr was indicted without being impeached, and the same fate might have befallen Vice President Spiro Agnew had he not resigned and entered a nolo contendere. I love that. Nolo contendere. I'm sure that's not right either. Plea. Not only would defendant's interpretation contradict that long settled practice, it would also introduce significant complications into criminal. What? No. No, stop. Had he not resigned, okay, wait. For all current interpreters contradict that alongside, it would introduce significant complications into criminal proceedings for all current and formal federal officials, including threshold constitutional questions of whether the suspect is or was an officer of the United States and whether the offense is one for which he could be impeached. Well, I guess it's mostly dudes. No, I'm just kidding. Mostly dudes do the bad stuff. I'm kidding. It was just an easy joke. The clash with historical practice and difficulties. Okay. He's not reading the clause right. Well, doesn't he have like a real estate attorney handling this case? Aren't we down to a real estate? Aren't we down to a real estate lawyer at this point? He was impeached but not removed. Yeah, he was not. Hard no, obvious decision here. Yeah. I don't know. Let's see. If a president commits a crime that does not fall, wait, okay. Finally, defendant's interpretation of the impeachment judgment clause would produce implausibly perverse results. This might be good. The Constitution permits impeachment and conviction for a limited category of offenses: treason, bribery, or other crimes, high crimes, and misdemeanors. Under defendant's reading, if a president commits a crime that does not fall within that limited category and so could not be impeached and convicted, the president could never be prosecuted for that crime. Alternatively, if Congress does not have the opportunity to impeach or convict a sitting president, perhaps because the crime occurred near the end of their term or is covered up until after the president has left office, the former president similarly could not be prosecuted. Talk about a lame duck, right? Just, it's like the purge. Mr. President, you have 12 months to perpetrate as much crime as you can. And then you can argue that it happened in the purge and you can't be held responsible for it. They're arguing res judicata precludes this action because he was not removed. Yeah, found not guilty. But they're wrong. Yeah. Yeah. Don't go says. So there. Oh, cool. Judicata. Oh, that's nice. Let's see. Under defendant's reading, if a president, okay, alternative, okay. Defendant seems to suggest that this scenario in which the former president would be utterly unaccountable for their crimes is simply the price we pay for the separation of powers. See the reply in support of the immunity motion. I hope that's here. I really do. Oh, here's a quote. While the separation of powers may prevent us from righting every wrong. So, Congress could murder their spouse in the final week of being in office. Cool, cool. Well, yeah, and don't give them any ideas. Let's see here. Wait, I want to read that again. So this is from they were quoting Morrison v. Olson, and it was Judge Scalia's dissenting opinion. And just Judge Scalia says, while the separation of powers may prevent us from righting every wrong, what? It does so in order to ensure that we do not lose liberty. I do think I kind of understand maybe what he's saying, but I may not. I'll be honest. That cannot be the clauses, meaning the constitutional limits on impeachment's penalties do not license a president's criminal impunity. Hey, you don't want to shit on Scalia in the actual Supreme Court brief. Come on, Jack. Jeez, do better. Even assuming that former as well as sitting presidents may be impeached, this hypothetical would still produce problematic results. Congress could enable a former president's criminal prosecution by impeaching them after they have left office. Oh, that's right. But it would raise serious separation of powers concerns to restrain the core executive act of prosecuting a private citizen, as a former president would then be, until Congress chose to do so. Yeah, that makes sense too. Well, that's what the law is, sweetie. Well, not really. In sum, nothing in the Constitution's text, structure, the Supreme Court has cautioned against forms of presidential liability that rise to the level of constitutionally forbidden impairment to the executive's ability to perform its constitutionally mandated functions. Clinton v. Jones. But the prospect of federal criminal liability for a former president does not violate that. Dissenting opinions are not binding. Right. Either by imposing unacceptable risks of vexatious litigation or by otherwise chilling the executive's decision-making process. Indeed, it is likely that a president who knows that their actions may one day be held to criminal account will be motivated to take greater care that the laws are faithfully executed. Yeah, well, let's not test that theory, shall we, darling? More fundamentally, federal criminal liability is essential to the public's interest in our historic commitment to the rule of law, nowhere more profoundly manifest than in our view that the twofold aim of the criminal justice is that guilt shall not escape or innocence suffer. Nixon, quoting Berger v. the United States, the presidency's unique responsibilities do not exempt its former occupants from that commitment. All right, let's see. Fitzgerald has some shit. Burdens on the presidency. At the outset, it bears noting that it is far less intrusive on the functions of the executive branch to prosecute a former president than a sitting one. The Supreme Court has accepted at least the initial premise that the president occupies a unique office with powers and responsibilities so vast and important that the public interest demands that he devote his undivided time and attention to his public duties. Oh, that was Clinton. And the Office of Legal Counsel has identified 3 burdens of criminal prosecution that could impede the performance of that constitutional role. The actual imposition of a criminal sentence of incarceration, which would make it physically impossible for the president to carry out his duties. The public stigma and opprobrium occasioned by the initiation of criminal proceedings, which could compromise the president's ability to fulfill his constitutionally contemplated leadership role with respect to foreign and domestic affairs, and the mental and physical burdens of assisting in the preparation of a defense for the various stages of the criminal proceedings, which might severely hamper the president's performance of his official duties. Well, what is that? OLC has identified 3 burdens of criminal prosecution that would limit performance. Okay. But none of those burdens would result from the criminal prosecution of a former president who is no longer performing official duties. Accordingly, the separation of powers concerns are significantly diminished in this context. Well, there you go. Fitzgerald might distract a president from his public duties to the detriment. The Supreme Court highlighted 2 concerns: the public interest in providing the president the maximum ability to deal fearlessly and impartially with the duties of his office, and 2, the fact that given the visibility of his office and the effect of his actions on countless people, the president would be an easily identifiable target for suits and civil damages. Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying yeah, uh, not easy. I mean, I think there's probably still a way to stop. But I don't know. Maybe they need to force a Senate trial every time there's an impeachment vote in the House, that there must be a trial. That's probably wrong. I don't know. How do I know? I don't know anything. Trust and believe. I don't know a fucking thing. Okay. All right, let's keep going. These concerns do not carry the same weight. During the Watergate prosecution, President Nixon argued that if recordings of his conversations were subject to criminal subpoena, the presidential decision-making process would be compromised because his staff would be less candid. The court disagreed, stating that it, quote, cannot conclude that advisors will be moved to temper the candor of their remarks by the infrequent occasions of disclosure because of the possibility that such conversations will be called for in the context of a criminal prosecution. There you go. Juror of integrity. Let's see. Concern of self and intense feelings. All right. Sorry. I'm just going to try not to linger, but not miss anything really good. The vexatious post-presidency litigation is much reduced in the criminal. I mean, it is. It's reduced to the crimes. Right? I yeah. I don't know. Let's see. What does this say? The supremacy clause. To begin, defendant is only charged with federal crimes in this case, so any ruling here will be limited to that context and would not extend to state or local prosecutions, which in any event might run afoul of the supremacy clause. So what's that mean? Is he talking about, well, I guess he's not really talking specifically about any case, but does it mean that or no, that's why the Mark Meadows case and decision about him not being, not having his removed to federal court. That's why it's okay in Georgia, right? Or is this a potential new issue for Georgia? Oh, sorry. So if if what okay, so I just read this thing about to begin defendant okay. Okay. To begin, defendant is only charged with federal crimes in this case, so any ruling here would be limited to that context and would not extend to state or local. This is Smith taking Trump's motion to the Supreme Court. Yeah, it is. But what I'm saying is he I totally understand that. Is it then still at risk for him to win this type of motion in the context of Georgia? That was my question. Or has that question been settled because of Mark Meadows' ruling? Does that make sense? Hi, Paulina. Good to see you. Being nosy. That's okay. I'm trying to get my respiratory system back. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not really sure how to work this microphone. I'm going to be honest with you, and I apologize. I hope it's not buzzing. Can you guys let me know if the sound is okay? You mean Trump still removed to federal court? Yes, don't go. That's what I mean. Is would that ever be removed for federal court? Would that ever be removed to federal court? I don't even know. I need to look at what these lights mean. Okay. Anyway, it's interesting. The supremacy clause prohibits state judges and prosecutors from interfering. Oh, yeah. Okay. See, this to me is like that's what Marky Mark was arguing and lost. Terrible. Trump always request. Yeah, that's true. Let's see. Here we go. So denying defendant immunity only means that a former president may face one federal prosecution in one jurisdiction for each criminal offense allegedly committed while in office. That consequence stands in contrast to the civil context where the effect of the president's actions on countless people could result in untold numbers of private plaintiffs suing for damages based on any number of presidential acts. Well, didn't somebody just rule that there can be some kind of weird class action? I don't know. I don't get it. I haven't read enough about it, is what I mean. Defendant also warns that if he is not given immunity here, criminal prosecutions will, quote, bedevil every future presidential administration and usher in a new era of political recrimination and division. Woof. Oh, don't threaten me with a good time. Oh boy. Deluge, engulf. Yeah, okay. I get it. I get it. You're trying to be real scary. Any word on Netanyahu? On the net or Netanyahu. That's not what I meant. Navalny. Sorry, my head is stuffed. Any updates on Navalny? I'm gonna take a little bit of weed. Ah. Yeah. Anyway, I have a bad feeling about that. Um The robust procedural safeguards attendant to federal criminal prosecutions further reduce. Oh my god. Can can you say 3 years later we're here? It Yeah, please. Give me a break. It's a red herring. In short, no, 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 no. Fitzgerald, no way. All right, public interest. Of course, it's everybody said, yep. You got to resolve these questions. You got to resolve these questions. I'm not really seeing anything super juicy new. It's no surprise that there's a public interest in criminal law because of its distinctly communal character. Oh, we're waxing poetic about the character. The character of public interest. Navalny's, well, and I don't know how good the reporting is, Siegfried, but uh, it has been reported that he is missing after being removed from prison. I don't know what that means in the context of Russian news. So that's always I don't know, but I don't know. It doesn't sound great. Considers declared the need for the sentence imposed to reflect the seriousness of the offense, to promote respect for the law, and to provide just punishment for the offense, to afford adequate deterrence to criminal conduct. Yeah, I mean, does that not make sense to like MAGA? Does it not make sense that you would want someone who had broken the law to be held accountable? I mean, and the thing about it is that I he didn't do anything for them except be a role model for all their shittiness and say, "Hey, guess what? I can say it loud, and that means that I'm the king." So I don't know. It's just very odd. I'm confused. Trump is appealing the decision that he wasn't immune, and this is Smith's response. No. So Trump is, well, yes. The district court ruled that Trump is not immune from prosecution um, because he is a former president. Trump appealed that, I believe, or responded to it. I have to check myself now on that. And this is Jack Smith who filed this today, asking the Supreme Court to go ahead and just decide it now. Don't wait for the appeal process. I guess he has appealed it. Um, don't wait for the appeal process to play out. Go ahead and do a ruling. Yeah. 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 And this is fleshing out some of those arguments. But let me just see, because we've got perhaps no one understood. Okay, so this is all of the great case law. All of the great case law. All right, George Washington. Apparently, Navalny has been missing for 6 days. No pardon for Trump. Oh my God, please. Apparently, Navalny has been missing for 6 days and that he has likely been transferred, but his spokeswoman, Kira Yarmish, said they still do not know where he is. Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, could be anything. But it's probably not good. I'm yeah, tired of this world. Really tired of this world. He issued a sober warning. All obstructions. Oh, this is Washington.
This is Washington. I am George Washington. All obstructions to the execution of the laws, including group arrangements to counteract the regular deliberation and action of the constituted authorities, are destructive of this fundamental principle.
All right, that was my best George Washington. Like a declaratory relief motion. Yeah, I kind of even know what that is. So, yeah. Yeah, thank you, Paulina. In this case, he's trying to attempt to usurp the reins. The government alleges that with the help of all of these idiots, I can't wait for Boris Epstein to do a perp walk. Can I just say, can we get to that soon? Because I don't think anything would make me happier right now. Yeah. Me. For all these reasons, the constitutional consequences of federal criminal liability differ sharply from those of civil liability at issue in Fitzgerald, so they can't use Fitzgerald as their case. So there. It will, however, uphold the vital constitutional values that Fitzgerald identified as warranting the exercise of jurisdiction, maintaining the separation of powers, and vindicating the public interest in an ongoing criminal prosecution. Exempting former presidents from the ordinary operation of the criminal justice system, on the other hand, would undermine the foundation of the rule of law that our former first president described: respect for its authority,
compliance with its laws, and acquiescence in its measures. Duties enjoined by the fundamental maxims of true liberty.
Oh, I also await Flynn's pep walk. Indeed. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think we're gonna wait. I think I'm just gonna move to the mountains. I think I'm just gonna and I know I'm just kidding. That's too much. That's an expression of privilege and stupid. I'm not gonna do that. But some days. Let's see. Nothing in American history justifies the absolute immunity defendant seeks. As discussed above, supra, section 3A, there is no evidence that the founders understood the Constitution to grant it, and since that time, the Supreme Court has never suggested that the policy considerations which compel civil immunity for certain governmental officials also place them beyond the reach of criminal law. Hey, that's from Imbler. So there. Moreover, the notion that Costa Rica sounds good, I'll do it. I've been there. I've only been to like San Jose and outside of San Jose. I didn't go to the beach. Moreover, the notion that former presidents cannot face federal criminal charges for acts they took in office is refuted by the presuppositions of our political history. So check Fitzgerald for that one. Okay. Quoting Tenney. Okay, so the executive branch and the performance of assigned constitutional duties. I know. All right, well, let's find a good lake. The executive's legal representatives, the Solicitor General, and Office of Legal Counsel have expressly and repeatedly concluded that a former president may be subject to criminal process after he leaves office or is removed therefrom through the impeachment process. That's the immunity memo. Naturally, special counsel's decision to bring this case. reflects that judgment, distinguishing the Department of Justice's position from that former presidents retain civil immunity. Oh, okay. Executive's longstanding unwavering position on this issue. Da, 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 da. Historical practice also indicates a president's actions may be later criminally prosecuted. Well, Mitch McConnell said we could. For example, in the aftermath of Watergate, for example, President Ford granted former President Nixon full, free, and absolute pardon for all offenses against the United States which he, Richard Nixon, has committed or may have committed or taken part in while in office. Oh man, I remember that. In so doing, President Ford specifically noted the serious allegations that without a pardon would hang like a sword over our former president's head until he could obtain a fair trial by jury. Yeah, we got to give him a speedy trial. Yeah. I don't want to move like out of country. I'm fine staying here and fixing, doing whatever I can to help, but I'm just tired of a lot of the noise. I'm just tired of the noise. That's all. That's all. All right. But it has not exempted actions taken during the presidency. Let's see. By appointing a special, in which he has done this. Oh, by appointing a special prosecutor. So they do it. They appoint a special prosecutor during presidential terms. See Hunter Biden. Jeez. Nixon formally accepted that full and absolute pardon for any charges which be brought against me for actions taken during the time I was president, calling the pardon a compassionate act. Both Ford's pardon and Nixon's acceptance arose from the desire to prevent the former president's potential criminal prosecution, and both specifically refer to that possibility, without which the pardon would have been largely unnecessary. I have, not for long periods of time. So, yeah, not for long periods of time at all. Really. Um, but yeah, I don't, I mean, I love everywhere, so it doesn't matter. I'm agnostic, I guess. I just want a nice view, some water, and some weed. That's pretty much it. That's pretty much all I need. Granting the immunity defendant seeks would also break with long-standing legal precedent. Okay, so this blarp blarp blarp. Oh, we're out of the. I don't know if there's much juicy. Okay, well, we still got 20 pages to go. Hey, Ivan, how are you? Oh, Andrew Weissman said asking for the Supreme Court to rule that President Trump is not to uphold the DC District Court's ruling that President Trump is not immune from criminal prosecution for crimes committed while in office. The district office said he is liable, or he is not immune from those crimes, from prosecution of those crimes. He is appealing that, and instead of letting the appeal process play itself out, because they want to hold the trial on March 4th, Jack Smith and his team is asking the Supreme Court to preemptively basically weigh in and say, shit or get off the pot. Is this guy going to be immune, or are we going to drag this out? Because I'm not here for it. And so this was like I'll put a link to the document too in the description, but this is the filing that Jack Smith did today about about that. So, does that help? I hope. The next Rachel Maddow. Jack Smith? No, I'm just kidding. Let's see. For these reasons, the court cannot conclude that our Constitution cloaks former presidents with absolute immunity for any federal crimes they committed while in office. Our nation's historic commitment to the rule of law is nowhere more profoundly manifest than in our view that the twofold aim of criminal justice is that guilt shall not escape or innocence suffer. Meow, meow. We're gonna read it now. Not to decide Let's see. The court emphasizes the limits of its holding here. It does not decide. Oh, this actually, the document that I'm reading right this second, forgive me, this particular document, this section of it, is the motion, or is, sorry, is the ruling from the district court that said Trump is not immune. So what I'm reading right now is the district court's opinion, but it's part of the larger document, which is Jack Smith's filing, which we read at the beginning, which really covers a lot of the same things you're seeing in here and really includes Jack Smith's team saying, listen, Supreme Court, we don't have any time. And this is definitely in the, this is in the works. I gotta have this trial on March 4th. I can't fuck around. So, so it's great. It's bold. And that was interesting to me too that Andrew Weissman said that's a bold move. I didn't realize that, but yeah, cool. Lee. No man in this country, not even the former president, is so high that he is above the law. Sorry. Consistent with its duty not to decide questions of a constitutional nature unless absolutely necessary to a decision, the court emphasizes the limits of its holding here. This is the district court, does not decide whether former presidents retain absolute criminal immunity from non federal prosecutions or, oh, okay, this is interesting. It does, this court is not saying that I'm so sorry. This court is not saying it does not decide whether former presidents retain absolute criminal immunity from non federal prosecutions or whether sitting presidents are entitled to greater immunity than former ones. Similarly, the court expresses no opinion on the additional constitutional questions attendant to defendants' assertion that former presidents retain absolute criminal immunity for acts within the outer perimeter of the president's official responsibility. That's what he called it. He called it the outer perimeter. Wait. Okay, so IDK is a backup plan. No, it's not really a backup plan. It's trying to answer the question. It's trying to force an answer to the question. You're not stupid. No, bam, or inane. You're not inane. I thought you said stupidity, and I don't know why I thought that. No, you're not being inane. That's totally a great question. Yeah, so this is really just to force the issue. I didn't explain it well. Or if the Supreme Court rules in Trump's favor, would that derail? I don't think so. I don't think so. It's a great question, actually. It's a fantastic question. I'm getting the sense from this section that I'm reading right now that that Jack Smith isn't claiming that the district court and in fact, Ivan, I recall now that in this briefing or in the motion above, the Jack Smith portion of it, he actually says, "I'm not I'm not seeking this on behalf of any other case. I'm talking about this case right here, DC." So, I don't know if that helps add any color to the answer, but and Donko is a lawyer, so or a former lawyer, even a broken clock. Oh man, you don't know how much I feel that. Okay, and whether sitting presidents, okay. Similarly, all right. Immunity motion at 21. Even if the court were to accept that assertion, it could not grant defendant immunity here without resolving several separate and disputed constitutional questions of first impression, including whether the president's duty to take care of the laws be faithfully executed, that the laws be faithfully executed, includes within its outer perimeter at least 5 different forms of indicted conduct. Yeah, only applies in this case. And he's also saying, okay, so Trump is claiming that I have to go back and find that one. God, I hope they say it again because Trump in his filing said, "Do I have to bring up the dancing streets?" You don't. You don't have to bring it up again. Let's see. Where is it? Whether inquiring to the president's wait. Oh, wait. Okay, so he's claiming his one of his defenses is that the actions he took were within the outer limits. Oh, outer perimeter. I said outer limits. I meant outer perimeter of his response of or I guess of the law. I don't know. I don't know what the outer perimeter really refers to. Anyway, so that's kind of what that's talking about. President whether inquiring into the president's purpose for undertaking each form of that allegedly criminal conduct is constitutionally permissible in an immunity analysis, and whether any presidential conduct intertwined with otherwise constitutionally immune actions also receives criminal immunity. I have no idea what I just read, but that's okay. As I've said in court, that's not me. That was not me breakdancing on Constitution app. I hope not. That's busy. That's busy, busy. You don't want to do that. You get hurt. Let's see. Because it concludes that former presidents do not possess absolute federal criminal immunity for any acts committed while in office. However, what? The court need not reach those additional constitutional issues, and it expresses no opinion on them. So there you go. In his oh, here, we'll quote some of his fucking motion. He's saying it may be a stretch, but his actions were still in the course of. Yes, exactly. Thank you, Junko. That's a great way of putting it. That's how I understood it. I mean, thank you for putting it in better words. Let's see. In his constitutional motion, defendant first argues that the indictment should be dismissed because it criminalizes his speech and violates First Amendment. It's well established that does not protect speech as used an instrument of crime. First Amendment provides blah 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 blah. I don't mean blah 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 blah. I mean this is really great citations of the First Amendment and all the case law. Just making sure prosecutions for conspiring, directing, and aiding and abetting do not run afoul of the Constitution when those offenses are carried out through speech. Okay, that's that. The indictment does not violate the First Amendment. Dido. The indictment alleges that defendant used specific statements as instruments of the criminal offenses with which he is charged, conspiring to fraudulently. Oh, we went over those. So those are the counts. Okay, everybody got that? Those are all your counts. Defendant's alleged criminal conduct involves speech does not render that indictment unconstitutional. The indictment notes that the defendant had a right, like every American, to speak publicly about election and even to claim falsely that there had been outcome determinative fraud during the election and that he had won. And it enumerates defendant's specific statements only to support the allegations that defendant joined conspiracies and attempted to obstruct the election certification, such as the allegations that defendant knowingly made false claims about the election results and deceived state officials to subvert the election results. Boop, boop, boop. The indictment therefore properly alleges defendant's statements were made in furtherance of a criminal scheme. Defendant argues that the indictment violates First Amendment for three primary reasons. The government may not prohibit defendants' core political speech on matters of public concern, constitutional motion. First Amendment protection extends to statements advocating the government to act. And defendant reasonably believes that the 2020 presidential election was stolen. There's nothing reasonable about that, man. Core political speech on matters of public concern. Sorry. Defendant first claims that his statements disputing the outcome of the 2020 election is core political speech that addresses a matter of public concern. Even assuming that this is true, core political speech addressing matters of public concern is not immunized from prosecution if it is used to further criminal activity. Okay, they're going to repeat a lot. He can say it's fraud, he just can't advocate. Yeah, right? EO 13848. That's it. I also really want to find out if I was dreaming when I heard that Alito was teed up to sign some kind of injunction against the certification by Ginny Thomas, and I feel like I keep dreaming that, but it really happened, and I need to memorialize that in my brain. Let's see. He's going through all of his arguments. Defendant is not entitled when he engages and removes him from First Amendment. Okay. In support, he offers various opinions. A majority of the justices agreed that only the Stolen Valor Act, which prohibits an individual from falsely representing that they have received any decoration or medal authorized by Congress for the armed forces of the United States, violated the First Amendment. And that was one of the things that Thomas and Alito need to recuse. Yeah, or resign. Of course they won't. Of course. Okay. Da, da, da. One theme common to both the plurality and concurring opinions, however, was the concern that the Stolen Valor Act only prohibited false statements and only because of their falsity. Indeed, each opinion. Okay, that's great. It's going good and deep. Second, defendant contends that attempts to prohibit or criminalize claims on political disputes constitute viewpoint discrimination. But defendant is not being prosecuted for his view, quotes, on a political dispute. He is being prosecuted for acts constituting criminal conspiracy and obstruction of the electoral process. And any political motives the defendant may have had in doing so do not insulate his conduct from prosecution. Wow. So there. The indictment does not okay. Third, defendant argues what? I like the days before I knew SCOTUS was corrupt. I understand that. Yeah. Third, defendant argues that even if a higher level of scrutiny does not apply to the indictment, it nonetheless is invalid under any level of scrutiny because it is tailored to violate free speech rights. Well, that was all quotes from Trump's filing. Constitutional. Okay. Here, however, there is no level of scrutiny that applies because speech in furtherance of criminal conduct does not receive any First Amendment protection. So there. Finally, defendant argues that the indictment violates the First Amendment because all the charged conduct constitutes First Amendment protected speech. He contends that to qualify as speech in furtherance of criminal conduct, that speech must be integral to some criminal conduct that is not itself a form of First Amendment protected speech or expression. But again, the indictment does not need to list other kinds of criminal conduct in addition to speech to comply with the First Amendment. The crimes defendant is charged with violating may be carried out through speech alone. Statements advocating government action. Defendant next claim, First Amendment protects government actions. Wait, let's see if there's anything. No, this is the quote, the citations. Okay. Defendant invokes McDonnell, argued that allowing this prosecution would risk criminalizing statements once thought to be false that turned out to be true, such as statements made early in the COVID-19 pandemic that masks do not stop the transmission of the virus. Not so. First, McDonnell did not involve the First Amendment, but rather the proper interpretation of official act under the federal bribery statute. And neither the indictment nor the federal statutes under which defendant is charged involve an official act. Second, defendant is not being prosecuted simply for making false statements, but rather for knowingly making false statements in furtherance of a criminal conspiracy and obstructing the electoral process. Consequently, there is no danger of a slippery slope in which inadvertent false statements alone are alleged to be the basis for criminal prosecution. In his reply brief, defendant also raises overbreadth, arguing that under the government's interpretation, the underlying statutes charged in the indictment are unconstitutional because they criminalize a wide range of perfectly ordinary acts of public speech and petitioning the government. Assuming defendant's overbreadth challenge is, assuming defendant's overbreadth challenge was properly raised for the first time in his reply brief, shade. The statutes are not overbroad under the government's view. As an initial matter, defendants' actions are not entitled to First Amendment protection as perfectly ordinary acts of public speech and petitioning the government. Moreover, defendant fails to identify any protected acts or speech that statutes might render impermissible under government's interpretation. The litigant must demonstrate that the statute prohibits a substantial amount of protected speech relative to its plainly legitimate sweep to succeed in overbreadth challenge. Defendant statements on the 2020 presidential election. He claims the First Amendment does not permit the government to prosecute it for his reasonable belief that the 2020 presidential election was stolen. He argues that the truth or falsity of his belief is not easily verifiable, and there is abundant these are in quotes, abundant public evidence providing a reasonable basis for his view. He contends that he is entitled. Well, it just got all shit on in the Eastman trial, honey. So strap in. He contends that he is entitled to mistrust the word of establishment-based government officials and draw his own inferences from the facts. Everybody's got an opinion. While defendant challenges that allegation in his motion and may do so at trial, his claim that his belief was reasonable does not implicate him. What? Your mom was right. Defendants can't claim I didn't do anything. I just said something. Your mom was right, but it is corrupt. Yeah. Let's see here. While defendant challenges an allegation in his motion, if the government cannot prove beyond a reasonable doubt at trial that defendant knowingly made false statements, he will not be convicted. That would not mean the indictment violated the First Amendment. There you go. Jack's not afraid. He must have more than we know. Well, I mean, I would imagine he does. Sorry, that was dumb. Let's see. Oops. Oh, and double jeopardy. Constitutional motion posits that the prosecution violates double jeopardy because defendant was tried and acquitted in early. Oh, okay. So he's arguing that. Isn't there sworn testimony? Did he say anything in a deposition, Max? Did he? Didn't he say something in a deposition? I wonder. As long as separate prosecutions charge an individual with violating different laws, all the prosecutions are considered separate offenses under the double jeopardy clause. Okay, well, we're going to quote all kinds of. I'm going to knock that argument down. I hope we make this out of this. Not from Trump, but from AIDS. Well, no, definitely. Yeah, there's definitely people on the record saying that they had told him and all this stuff. I guess there isn't. I guess we would have had a bigger deal about it. Okay. Continue. The impeachment proceedings with the incitement of insurrection, which is not charged in the indictment. Oh, first, impeachment threatens only removal from office and disqualification, neither of which is a criminal penalty. So not double jeopardy. Nor Okay, wait. Second, impeachment proceedings charge defendant with incitement of insurrection, which is not charged in the indictment. Although there are a few decisions interpreting the analogous federal statute that prohibits inciting any insurrection against the authority of the United States or laws thereof, it is well established that incitement typically means advocacy directed to inciting or producing imminent lawless action that is likely to incite or produce such action. Wait a minute, hold on. There's an update from the Texas pregnant woman. Kate Cox, the woman from Texas, has left the state to obtain an abortion. So hopefully she is safely on her way to get her health addressed. And I am thinking of her and her family and all of the other women and birthing people that are struggling because fucking assholes are doing exactly what they claim leftists are doing, imposing their beliefs on people that don't share those beliefs. So, fuck them. That just makes me sick to my stomach. Lee, hi Lee. Oh my gosh. Okay, so let me tell you, Lee. Oh, Lee, strap in, girl. No. So what we're reading right now is a larger document that is a filing from Jack Smith this morning to the Supreme Court. He basically, in DC District Court recently, if you remember, the district court ruled that Trump is not immune because from criminal prosecution due to being a former president. They made that ruling, and Trump appealed that ruling. Jack, instead of waiting for the appeal process to kind of like run its course and jeopardize his March 4th trial date, he has asked the Supreme Court in what is being called an unprecedented or kind of bold move, not unprecedented, but bold move, to have them preemptively, I guess is probably not the right word, but preemptively rule and squash any appeal process from the DC District Court and not delay, which is what Jack Smith's afraid of. So he submitted this motion for them to rule, or however that, I'm sorry, whatever the filing is, forgive me, a petition. Sorry, petition. He submitted this petition to the Supreme Court. And it includes, oh, in state courts, it's called a special action. Okay. This petition includes what I'm reading right this moment on this very page, which is the DC District Court's original ruling saying that Trump is not immune from criminal prosecution due to being a former president. So that's what, if I hope that helps. And it's been interesting from the standpoint of understanding what Trump is arguing. And Andrew Weissman, the reason it really caught my eye is Andrew Weissman said it was a really bold move. And so I thought, oh, well, that's interesting if he's saying that. So let's check it out. All right. So we're kind of deep into it, but it might be a good background noise for later. And Jack is only asking the Supreme Court to rule specifically to his case in March of 2024, not to Georgia, not to anything else, not to rule around states. And the district court also said this ruling is not in relation to any other actions that are being taken against him. We are only, whatever. So it's very specific. None of the statutes under which defendant is charged require the government to prove incitement. The impeachment proceedings and this prosecution, therefore, did not twice put defendant in jeopardy of life or limb for the same offense. So one of Trump's arguments against the district court's ruling was that he was this is double jeopardy. And we went first through his first argument, which was First Amendment. And Jack is like, or the district court was like, boom, boom, no, boom, no, boom, no. Here's 7 citations. His defendant contends his prosecution violates double jeopardy because the distinct branches of government are part of one single sovereign. Oh my God. Assuming that's true, defendant does not argue that impeachment carries a criminal sanction or that the impeachment proceedings were based on the same offense. So he's wrong. The impeachment judgment clause provides, and he's also citing the impeachment judgment clause. The impeachment judgment clause provides that judgment, this is a quote, judgment in cases of impeachment shall not extend further than to removal from office and disqualification to hold and enjoy any office of honor, trust, or profit under the United States. But the party convicted shall nevertheless be liable and subject to indictment, trial, judgment, and punishment according to law. So that is the impeachment judgment clause. The first part of the clause limits it to it talks about impeachment, removal from office, prohibiting office. Second part provides, but they still can be they can still be hold any what? Office. Did I not say that right? Don't make fun of me right now. Hold any office, right? Isn't that what it said? Did I read it wrong? Any office of honor, trust, or profit under the United States. As explained above, the first part, okay, so blah, 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 blah. As the Office of Legal Counsel noted, the second part makes clear that the restriction on sanctions in the first part was not a prohibition on further punishments. Rather, those punishments would still be available, but simply not to the legislature. So there you go. Defendant contends that the impeachment judgment clause contains a negative implication. If a person is not convicted in an impeachment proceedings, they may not be prosecuted. In statutory interpretations, the expressio unius canon, which provides that expressing one item of an associated group or series excludes another left unmentioned, does not apply unless circumstances support a sensible inference that the term left out must have been meant to be excluded. Because defendant's reading is not supported by the structure of the Constitution, the historical context of the impeachment clause, or prior constitutional precedents, expressio unius does not apply. I don't think I would have ever made it through law school. Can I just tell you that? The impeachment judgment clause does not provide that acquittal by state during impeachment proceedings shields a president from criminal prosecution after he leaves office. Boom, mic drop. And Congress, not the same party as DOJ, right? Different branches, bitches. Structural considerations support reading the impeachment clause as the plain language suggests. Impeachment and prosecution serve distinct goals. So that's talking about impeachment is for Congress. Punishment is for us. No. Second, the Senate may acquit in an impeachment proceeding even when it finds that an official act of committed the acts alleged. See Mitch McConnell. Expressio unius. Let's see. Indeed, the framers anticipated that the impeachments might spark partisan division. Acquittal on impeachment does not establish the defendant's innocence. Girl, you don't have to tell us. Defendant contends that impeachment serves to protect officials from political attacks by their enemies, and allowing prosecution following impeachment acquittal would undermine that protection. Constitutional blah, blah, blah. But politics are likely to play even larger a role in impeachments than in prosecutions, given that impeachments are conducted by elected officials politically accountable to their constituents, whereas prosecutions are conducted by appointed officials, most of whom may not be removed without cause. So there. Nobody cares. Historical context. Let's see. Let's see if there's anything really juicy. Chose the phrase the party convicted with a negative implication in mind. Most notably, the founders repeatedly acknowledged that the impeachment bills would not bar subsequent prosecutions. For example, James Wilson, who participated in the Constitutional Convention, so he's one of the big OGs, observed that officials who may not be convicted on impeachment may be tried by their country. So don't forget it. Edward Pendleton, president of the Virginia Ratifying Convention, similarly observed that an acquittal would not bar a resort to the courts of justice. I like that. A resort to the courts of justice. I like that. I'm not gonna do anything. Wait, no, I'm gonna take a picture. Okay. Let's see here. Justice Story 2 described that following impeachment, a second trial for the same offense could be had either after an acquittal or a conviction in the court of impeachments. I mean, there's just a ton of precedent. I'm sorry. Defendants' additional arguments invoking past constitutional precedents are similarly unavailing. He first cites Justice Alito. Oh, does he? How convenient. Justice Alito's dissent in Vance. In Vance, the Supreme Court held that a sitting president is not immune from state criminal subpoenas, nor does a heightened standard apply to such requests. In so holding, the majority opinion reiterated that no citizen, not even the president, is categorically above the common duty to produce evidence when called upon in a criminal proceeding. We'll tell that to Steve Bannon. Justice Alito's dissent, moreover, noted that under the impeachment and judgment clause, criminal prosecution, like removal from the presidency and disqualification from other offices, is a consequence that can come about only after the Senate's judgment, not during or prior to the Senate trial. All Justice Alito's dissent observed is that, temporally, any prosecution must follow the judgment on impeachment. No official shall be subject to simultaneous impeachment proceedings and criminal prosecution. That the dissent does not support the view that if impeachment proceedings end in acquittal, subsequent prosecution violates double jeopardy. Um, defendant cites Fitzgerald for the proposition that the threat of impeachment alone is the proper remedy against a president for any official malfeasance. Their quotes. But as already explained, Fitzgerald is meaningfully distinguishable. It addressed immunity from civil suit and not criminal, and all 9 justices took care to emphasize that their reasoning did not extend to the criminal context yet again. In some, okay, yeah, he's due process. Oh boy, finally. The defendant contends that the indictment violates the due process clause because he lacked notice that his conduct was unlawful. I'm going to say that one more time. He did not receive notice that his conduct was unlawful. That's in a filing. This country's so fucked. Oh, man. Oh, okay. Due process clause of the Fifth Amendment provides that no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without the due process of law. To comply with due process, a law must give fair warning of the prohibited conduct. A law fails to give fair warning if the text of the statute is so unclear that it requires the judicial and executive branches to define what conduct is sanctionable and what is not. Or a judge construes the statute in a manner that is clearly at variance with the statutory language. For instance, in 2015, the Supreme Court concluded that the residual clause of the Armed Career Criminal Act violated due process because it was so vague and difficult to administer that defendants lacked notice of how it would be applied in any given case. The court explained that the residual clause required judges to imagine an ordinary case involving the crime with which the defendant was charged and compare the defendant's actions to that ordinary case. It further emphasized that the repeated attempts and repeated failures to craft a principled and objective standard out of the residual clause confirmed its hopeless indeterminacy, noting that the clause, had caused, quote, numerous splits among the lower federal courts. A statute does not fail to give fair warning just because it does not mean the same thing to all people all the time, everywhere. A quote from Braunstein. Since words by their nature are imprecise instruments, laws may have gray areas at the margins without violating due process, U.S. v. Barnes. Indeed, statutes are rarely found unconstitutional because their text fails to give fair warning, Braunstein, and a bunch of other shit. Applying a novel judicial construction of a statute may also fail to give fair warning if it unexpectedly broadens the statute's reach and applies that expanded reach retroactively. Bowie. In Bowie, for example, defendants were convicted of violating a state law prohibiting entry upon the lands of another after notice from the other, prohibiting such entry, after they remained on premises after being asked to leave, even though they did not re-enter the premises. The Supreme Court held that the state Supreme Court's construction of that statute failed to give the defendants fair notice because it was clearly at variance with the statutory language and had not the slightest support in prior state decisions. Defendant had, Don't Go says, heightened scrutiny equals strict scrutiny, meaning government must have compelling state interest to act, and when act, do so in least restrictive manner. Oh, thank you for that. Defendant had fair notice that his conduct might be unlawful. None of the criminal laws he is accused of violating require the executive or judicial branch to, quote, guess at the prohibited conduct. Nor does finding that the indictment complies with due process require the court to create a novel judicial construction of any statute. Defendant notes that the principle of fair notice has special force in the First Amendment context. While that may be true, even special force does not place defendant's alleged conduct outside the plain language of the charged statute, as he alleges. First, his argument does not contrast the allegations in the indictment with the plain language of the contrast the allegations in the indictment with the plain language of the statutes, but instead attempts to recast the factual allegations in the indictment itself as no more than routine efforts to challenge an election. Claiming that post-election challenges like defendants had been performed in 1800, 1824, 1876, and 1960 without any suggestion it was criminal. But again, at this stage, the court must take the allegations in the indictment as true. The fact that defendant disputes the allegations in the indictment do not render them unconstitutional. Second, the meaning of statutory terms, quote, need not be immediately obvious to any average person. Indeed, even trained lawyers may find it necessary to consult legal dictionaries, treatises, and judicial opinions before they may say with any certainty what some statute may compel or forbid. And that's from Agnew. And due process does not entitle defendant to advance warning that his precise conduct is unlawful, so long as it does not so long as the law plainly forbids it. Let's see. Don't Go says lack of notice. Lack of notice is procedural due process violation. Like holding a hearing without notice to defendant would be violation because defendant would be denied opportunity to defend. Here, Trump nor not being denied opportunity to defend. He certainly isn't. Hey, Tom, you're so welcome. Thank you. That's so nice of you. Thanks. I appreciate that. Defendant also claims he lacked fair notice because there is a long history of government officials publicly claiming that election results were tainted by fraud or questioning election results, yet he is the first person to face criminal charges for such core political behavior. That's his quote. But there is a long history. There is also a long history of prosecutions for interfering with the outcome of elections. That history provided defendant with notice that his conduct could be prosecuted. See the opposition to constitutional motion at 39 and 40, citing 6 examples of code prosecutions. Indeed, the Supreme Court has addressed more than one case in which officials were prosecuted for interfering with or discarding election ballots, Mosley and Saylor. In addition, none of the contested elections defendant invokes is analogous to this case. As noted above, defendant is not being prosecuted for publicly contesting the results of the election. He is being prosecuted for knowingly making false statements in furtherance of a criminal conspiracy and for obstruction of election certification proceedings. Hi, Algo. Nice to see you. I clicked the like button. Have you? Yeah, tickle that algo. Share, like, subscribe. And in, let's see, further, and in none of these earlier circumstances was there any allegation that official engaged in criminal conduct to obstruct, the electoral process. For instance, following the 2004 presidential election, Representative Stephanie Tubbs Jones raised an objection to Ohio's electoral votes at the joint session. Senator Boxer signed the objection. Representative Jones explained in a separate session that objection was to allow a necessary, timely, and appropriate opportunity to review and remedy the right to vote. Ohio's electoral votes were then counted for President Bush. Defendant points to no allegation that Representative Jones's objection was in furtherance of a criminal conspiracy or designed to obstruct the electoral process. Moreover, even if, she made a legal objection. Trying to stop it is an illegal objection. Is that simpler? Plus, ignorance of law is not a valid defense. Yeah, I think I've heard that one before. Even if there were analogous circumstance in which an official had escaped prosecution, the mere absence of prior prosecution in a similar circumstance would not necessarily mean that defendant's conduct was lawful or that his prosecution lacks due process. The quote, exclusive authority and absolute discretion to decide whether to prosecute a case within bounds is a cornerstone of the executive branch in Nixon. Finally, defendant argues that for the indictment to comply with due process, the prosecution bears the burden to, quote, provide examples where similar conduct was found criminal. Under that theory, novel criminal acts would never be prosecuted. The Constitution does not so constrain the executive branch. Conclusion. You guys really hung in there for 81 pages. I'm going to give it to ya. Lolo gonna give it to ya. For the foregoing reasons, the court will deny. This is again, this is the denial of the district court. The court will deny defendant's motion to dismiss the indictment based on presidential immunity and motion to dismiss the indictment based on constitutional grounds. Womp womp. Tanya! Tanya, Tanya! Tanya, Tanya! No, no, no. Yeah. She says, no way. You're not getting away with it today. No way. Not today. Anyway, hope your day's going well. It's a good one. That's a good one. It's a good one after all. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Yeah, ignorance of law is not a defense. Yeah, so that was interesting. Let's see. I think there's actually a couple of other things. Hold on just a minute. Let me get rid of stuff I've already read. Oh yeah, I want to check on Alex Navalny. Hold on. So, what is that? 18 2 hours ago. Alexei Navalny, Russian opposition leader removed from penal colony. That's from BBC 2 hours ago. Damn it. Oh, this is I want to show you this. And I have not asked Empty Wheel, but I think that she'll be okay with it, and I would really just like everyone to read it. So it's not like I'm going to try and do anything about it. But I want to show you I really want oh, that's not what I want. Sorry. Hold on. Hold on. Do 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 do. Uh-oh. That's not what I want. Where is it? Oh, here we go. Here we go. This is often she has links. Marcy has links in her her tweets. Um, but this is her website. Yeah, my day. My day is my day's my day. My day's my day. It's okay. Everything's great. Everything's great. Top of the world, ma. Anyway, so this is one I was reading this morning. Tony Bobolinsky. So if you all remember Tony Bobolinsky, he was such an idiot. Or he is such an idiot. Anyway, he's not even named as a business associate in any of the indictments. It's just amazing. Yeah, I know. It is a nice update, isn't it? But yeah, this I really Bobolinsky would naturally appear, arguably should appear in this narrative, and this is from the indictment. During the next 2 years, defendant, business associate, blah, 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 did this. On or about March 1st, 17, State Energy HK, a Hong Kong entity associated with CEFC, paid approximately to business associate 1. After the state and payment defendant began negotiating a joint venture. Over the summer, like that, all this stuff. So Tony theoretically should have been involved in that. And the entire passage is written to avoid mentioning a number of details that remain hotly contested. For example, this indictment doesn't mention on what date in February 2017 the meeting in Miami with Chairman Ye occurred, which would determine whether or not it was even possible for Tony Bobolinsky to attend as Bobolinsky in between meetings with Trump and Trump's chief of staff, told the FBI he had, but which Abby Lowell claims he did not. So it seems like, as predicted, let's see. Where is this part? The driving reason why Hunter cut out his Sinohawk business partners, which definitely included Bobolinsky, but which as written does not, was because Hunter thought Bobolinsky was an asshole, and both Hunter and Walker had concerns about Bobolinsky's Russian business ties. James Biden had concerns about his ties to pornography, and Walker, James Biden, and Hunter all thought he was a terrible fit. So I don't like there's a lot. I just highly I'll copy that. Highly recommend her off Twitter reads, I guess. That's my recommendation. So there's the link to Marcy's little website, and definitely follow her. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I thought that was good. And let's see what else, cuz I actually have quite a few things that are like have been waiting in the wings. Oh, here, I want to show you this, guys, if you haven't. This is timely. Hold on just a second, darlings. Hold on just a second. Hold on, my loves. Um, let's see. Here we go. Yeah, this is for Rudy. Message to you, Rudy. Let's see this. Yeah, that's what I want. Okay. All right. So this right here, right here is yeah, sure, Adriana. Absolutely. Anytime. Oh, let me make it a little bigger so everyone can see it at home. Where is it? Where am I? Oh, here I am. Okay. Boop, 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 boop. There we go. Woohoo. All right. So this is file 12.7. This is Ruby Freeman et al. V. Giuliani. So this is the civil action that is they're choosing jurors for right now, right? Today? Are they done? Are they done yet? Anyone in DC know if they're done? I don't know. So this is that, and I don't know. Let's take a look at it. I had it open, and I hadn't read it. So this is a cold reaction. Order regarding trial procedures, supplement the provisions of standing order for civil cases, schedule and required presence. The trial will begin at 9. Okay, so we know he was late. Jury is in place, ready to start this afternoon. Oh, cool. Awesome. Trial begun. Great. Thank you. Let's see. Unless the parties are otherwise notified, the court will convene. Okay. Opening statements, whatever, blah, blah, blah. What time do they start the actual is it an open courtroom? Is it an open is there like I know is there reporting in the courtroom? I saw him go in this morning, but it was only brief and it was like his stupid handler. I know this is damages only. No, I know this is I'm familiar with that. I just wanted to kind of see what this actually I just wanted to see what this was. Oh, this is a statement of the case. I want to read this anyway. Live tweeting. Who's live tweeting? Do you know who is? I think cuz I think is it Lisa Rubin who's not feeling well today? I can't remember. But I can't remember who would be covering that. All right, so this is a civil case. Plaintiffs Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss claim that defendant intentionally inflicted emotional distress, served as election workers for former mayor of New York City. He's really done. I mean, he's like a washed out rag. Oh, Riley's there. Okay. Cool. I'll go look at him. Oh, I haven't checked Roger's timeline. Let me check. The court has already determined that Mr. Giuliani is liable for defamation per se, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and he continues to be so, by the way, and civil conspiracy, and that Ms. Freeman and Ms. Moss are entitled to receive compensation, including in the form of punitive damages for Mr. Giuliani's willful conduct, or misconduct, if you may. The only issue remaining in this trial is for the jury to determine any amount of damages Mr. Giuliani owes to plaintiffs for the damage caused by his conduct. So there you go. All right, let's just see if there's anything in here. I mean, this should be pretty short, right? Don't you think this will be pretty short? I feel like this will be a pretty short thing. Okay, so that's great. Oh, good. We kind of got out of that. Number of jurors. Okay, so it's 8. We know that for civil. Okay, so that's fine. Okay. Let me come back and then we'll find something else. I have others. Don't worry. Okay. And then, all right, I got to get rid of all the stuff I've already read because otherwise it's going to be bad. Oh, wait. How bad is this? Okay, um I have the transcript. Was E. Jean Carroll's trial on damages short? Oh, I think it was like 6 weeks, wasn't it? Misconduct if you're nasty. Right, exactly. I think it was I want to say it was less than 2 months. I mean, this should be a week. Please. Give him the apartment. Let the Let, let everybody, well, although they don't want to move to New York, but it's a beautiful apartment. I've not seen the inside of it. I've just seen pictures. Okay. So I do have this one weird document, which is Tony Bobolinsky's interview um, from October 23rd, 2020. Same situation, found liable. Yeah, totally. You're right. So I think it's probably, I bet you it's a couple weeks. I just can't, I don't know. I don't know. Um, then the other thing I have is, and I don't think there was much. Let me just look at this while or I just like, whatever. But then trial proceeded on amount of damages, but don't recall length. Oh, yes, yes, yes. You're right. Sorry. You're right. That was the actual adjudication, I guess. Oh my gosh. Ugh, losing my voice. Dun, 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 dun. The electors. I'm looking at the elector document too. Oh, I want to read some of this to you. Oh wait, what's this? I have so many good things. Oh, this is the actual I was reading the actual indictment of Hunter. I was reading the actual indictment of Hunter. Kyle Cheney was live tweeting. Okay, hold on. Let me find Kyle. Wait, who? Hold on. Oops, that was dumb. That's dumb. Kyle Cheney. Oh, here we go. Do. Okay, here we go. Hold on, guys. I'm coming. I'm a coming over here, and then I'm a coming over here, and I'm a coming. Oops. Took one thing. Okay, great. Oh, actually, let me do this. In New York case, he's been found liable for fraud. Yeah. Yes. 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 And that's not going well either. But yeah, he didn't get on the stand today. He didn't get on the stand today. That's for sure. Thank you. Thank you for sending Kyle my way. Okay, so here we go. Let's catch up with Kyle. Happening now. It begins with the plaintiffs airing for jurors and a long string of graphic threats and racist voicemails that Freeman and Moss received. Sorry about that. I didn't read that very well. Freeman Moss lawyers now laying out alleged conspiracy between Trump, Giuliani, Bernie Carrick, Christina Bobb, motherfucker, Jenna Ellis, and Ray Smith to defame and attack the workers, blaming them for Trump's loss in Georgia. This is so great. God, Bernie Carrick, you fucking fuckwad. Jury being repeatedly reminded their job is minimal. The judge has already concluded that Giuliani defamed Freeman and Moss, that he intentionally caused them emotional distress, and that he blocked them from obtaining evidence relevant to their lawsuit. Their only job is a dollar amount. Moss and Freeman. I'm sorry, I just need one more drink. Oh my goodness, sorry. I'm in the cough phase of this. The end of the. It's awesome. I love it. Moss and Freeman's lawyer says the damage to their reputations and actual costs of adapting their lives in the wake of Giuliani defamation should result in an award in the, quote, tens of millions of dollars. Moss Freeman lawyers are also asking the jury to send a message with a serious award of punitive damages. That message in the United States of America, the message that in the United States of America, behavior like Rudy Giuliani's is not the inevitable result of politics. That's a quote from Moss and Freeman's lawyers. Giuliani attorney Joe Sibley agrees that Giuliani did something wrong In fact, the court already ruled on that. But he says the harm Moss and Freeman experienced can't be directly tied to Giuliani. Says Giuliani didn't call for violence or make racist statements. Oh, roll tape. Sibley says that if the plaintiffs get the damages they're seeking, oh, I hate you. I hate you. I hate you. It's the civil equivalent of the death penalty. Sibley, dipshit's lawyer, says if the plaintiffs get the damages they're seeking, it is the quote civil equivalent of the death penalty. It will be the end of Mr. Giuliani, he said. With any luck, it will. Who's that? I know who that is. How come it doesn't give you like the post? Why? Why? Is that so hard? Okay, fine. I know it's me. It's not you, it's me. So that's it. 8 minutes? What are we on a break? Are we on a break? That's a good one. Who did that? Puppy. That's a good one. Cool, man. Coolio. I wish we could watch it. I know I'm being selfish. It's not that I really need to watch it. We are living in an alternate universe. This is also ludicrous. It's not, yeah, I feel like we've entered that movie that we watched, Idiocracy. Like, for real, for real. Like before, of course of course we've always had Idiocracy. But I gotta be honest. Yes, he is. Don't go. He showed up late and then had to be reminded upon walking into the courtroom that his belt was undone because Ted, his assistant, is doing a terrible job and can't even get his boss to keep his pants together. So there's that. There's that. This is a horse of a different color. Yeah. Yeah, Brondo. It's got electrolytes. What's Brondo? Okay. Come on, Kyle. Come on, Kyle. Come on. Come on, Kyle. Come on, Kyle. Come on, Kyle. Anyway, well, I guess I could let you guys go. I'm not offering any more than you can get from following Kyle's updates on your own. So, thank you for coming. I really wanted to read that and the accountability. Thanks for being my accountability buddy on that and making me read it. Really appreciate that. Idiocracy made Mike Judge a modern day Nostradamus. That's that says a lot right there. Uh, when I was growing up, I used to think, "Oh man, adults are so much smarter than us." And then I quickly realized that's not true. All right. Yeah. Leave the World Behind. Have you seen it? No, I don't think so. What's that? What is that, Paulina? Hi, Paulina. It's good to see you. I mean, I said hi to you earlier, but what's that? What's that? I'll have to check it out. Is it a program or is it a book or? Oh, seen it. It's a program. I'm a doofus. I'll give you one more shot, Kyle. But I don't know what you're thinking, sir. Sometimes it fools me. but maybe it doesn't always fool me. Um, on Netflix. Okay, a movie Obama's produced. Oh, chilling. Oh, uh, it's good. Okay, is it gonna make me sadder? I'm in a sad mode right at the moment, and I'm trying really desperately to get out of it. So I'll have to. Oh, I love Mahershala Ali. Oh my god, I love him so much. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, then that's a good recommendation. Okay, let me put the recommendation up because I don't want my boring old. So let's make sure we all check out Netflix and Leave the World Behind. It's the Obamas film that they made. Spring will be here soon. That's right. Oh, on Apple TV. Got it. Don't fret. Fret. That's a good phrase. Don't fret. That's a good one. Did you see it, Clark? Was it good? Was it very, very good? Was it very, very good? Did you like it very much? Was it everything you wanted? Did you punch you in the gut? I don't know, I'm just making up words now. Okay, I'm gonna go because again, I don't need to read Twitter for you guys. You're perfectly capable. I'm not gonna add anything except for mispronunciations and, awkward pauses. So I hope the rest of your day is very good. I hope you are gonna get outside if you can and watch the watch the news, but don't. I guess watch what you need to. No more, no less. There you go. All right. Thanks, everyone. Thanks again for coming. I always appreciate it. When people come, it makes me feel very good. Thank you.